Hello, David Stewart here. It's time to talk about something I have been asked to talk about. A little bit of the flavor of the week, but ask and you shall receive. Let's talk about these fellows, Ghostbusters. Our favorite ghost fighters from the 1980s, makers of two very successful blockbuster movies, two very successful high-quality animated shows, and one third one of kind of more dubious quality. But the stuff from the 80s and 90s was very, very well loved, and for good reason. It was well made and certainly had a lot of laughs and a lot of great moments in it. I grew up with the Ghostbusters. I don't have probably quite as much affection for it as some people do, but that's not to say I have no affection for it. I really, really did love the Ghostbusters growing up. So the last film was made in 1989, and here we are in 2016, and we hear a new Ghostbusters movie. But how can that be? Because Harold Ramis, half of the writing team with Dan Aykroyd of the original movie, and star of the original movie, he has passed away. So who is going to make this movie? Who's going to be in it? Oh, we have four newcomers, four lovely women to replace our four tough men, and of the same basic racial makeup, three whites and a black. A lot of people are upset about this, and a trailer was just released, and people were very upset about that trailer. So I wanted to dig into my perspective on this particular movie and sort of what's going on in Hollywood with sequels, reboots, and all that kind of stuff. First of all, there is a big objection to the entire premise, direction, and intent of the movie. I will not represent that perspective so much. And this perspective is that essentially this is like a feminist propaganda film. Better, bigger YouTubers than I have done it, notably Sargon McCod and Thunderfoot have already done treatments on this, so you can check them out. I might put some links in the description box if you're interested in seeing their take on it. Their view is basically that our precious Ghostbusters, well-loved IP, has been co-opted to push a girl power narrative at the expense of all other elements. And I'm not going to say that's inaccurate, but even if they had that particular motive in mind, that like they were going to make this girl power movie, that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be a bad movie. There's other things that will make it a bad movie. When we watch the preview, there's a reason that there's a negative reaction to the preview, and I don't think it has to do with the fact that they cast four women. I think it has to do with the fact that the preview shows a bunch of gags and a bunch of moments that are not funny. They're like pretty cringy in some cases, or they're just lifted from the original movie, and people are a little bit upset about that. They're looking like, oh my gosh, you're making another Ghostbusters movie and it looks stupid. There's also been accusations of racism with the black character, because the black character says, like, you guys are great at this like science stuff. Like, it's this like kind of stereotypical kind of sassy black female character that apparently knows nothing about science, and there's three female white scientists and like a random streetwise black person helping them. Some people have made some objections to that. I think, I'm not black, so I'm not going to be the best one to represent that perspective, but those perspectives are out there, and certainly I feel like this character's lines in the preview were a little bit cringeworthy. So let me ask a little question, a little bit of a rhetorical question. If the creators of Ghostbusters, the writers, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, are the guys who wrote the first two Ghostbusters movies, they've been around. I know Harold Ramis was ill from about like 2011 onward, but they had lots of years. They had 20 years to write and produce another Ghostbusters movie. Why didn't they do that? Well, I would venture to guess, this is just a guess, that they didn't feel like they could produce another story, a third story of the same quality and the same amount of interest as the first two. And also they had other things they wanted to do more. They didn't need to make a third one for the money. They've had very successful careers. Everyone in the pictures had successful careers. They didn't need the money. And artistically they didn't feel like they probably had another third story of equal or better quality to bring to fans. So they just didn't do it. It's better to have two good movies and be remembered than to have two movies and a bad one and then start the trend of ever declining sequel quality. And that's just my opinion. But they obviously did not make any more movies. And I find it very interesting. And I'm not going to draw any conclusions here, but since Harold Ramis passed away in 2014, now we get the production of the movie and the release of it in 2016. We didn't get this movie until basically the guy who created Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd, wrote the movie with him, but you know, a big part of the brainchild of Ghostbusters, who originally didn't even want to star in the movie. He wanted John Belushi to play that part, but when John Belushi died, he ended up being in the movie, and I think he's great in the movie. But we're missing him. As soon as he's gone, then we start getting this movie. I find that very interesting. Once you have the personalities that would restrict the creative, that would enforce like creative quality onto something, once you have those removed, then you get a movie like this. Same thing with Force Awakens. Once you removed George Lucas, you got basically a like very vapid, very kind of soulless creation. And I do find that very interesting. Let me talk a little bit about the writer's perspective. We'll sort of leave the anti-feminist perspective behind. And I don't think it's fair to judge an entire movie by its trailer. However, this is a comedy movie, and when you are dealing with a comedy movie, you can expect that the trailer is going to pack itself full of the funniest moments in the movie to try to get you to come see it at the cinema, right? Now, you're not going to get all the gags that are based strictly on the story, like the situational comedy. You're not going to get that. But you are going to get all the gags. You're going to get all the one-liners. So they're going to put 2 minutes worth of their best moments, their best one-liners, their most enticing visual moments into the movie. And what we got in the trailer was things that were cringy and things that weren't funny. And that leads me to believe that this movie is probably not going to be that good. This is basically going to be a reboot, another remake, possibly a requel. And I do want to give credit where credit is due. I want to talk about some of the terminology some of my commenters have made, so I will attribute them. First one is from Ghostrick. It says, The Force Awakens separated the real Star Wars fans from the prequel haters. But more importantly, it symbolized a dawning of a new era in filmmaking, the wrath of the soft reboot. What is a soft reboot, you ask? It's just a new way for Hollywood to trick audiences into seeing remakes. All they have to do is cast some of the old characters from the film you want to remake, set it after the events of the last film in the series, and blammo. Well, let's look at the Wikipedia page. Ghostbusters 2016 film. Cameos. Look at that. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, and Ernie Hudson. Everyone but Harold Ramis has a cameo in this to pass the torch and say, hey, now's time for the reboot to happen. Just kind of like how you had Leonard Nimoy kind of show up in the Star Trek reboot, right? To kind of give some legitimacy to this new reboot. That's the soft reboot, right? We're getting a sequel, but it's really kind of a remake. We looked in the preview, we saw a lot of scenes that were similar to the first movie. So I don't know if this will be a remake necessarily yet, but it is a reboot, soft reboot. Another term, the requel from Frontigenics. I like to use the term requel, re-sequel, remake sequel, right? It's a reboot sequel. It's a sequel and a reboot put in the same movie. So really, it's a reboot passing off as a sequel because the original actors, the original characters from the story are not present, right? Characters are pretty essential to story. They're the middle tier of the three levels of a great story: setting, characters, execution of plot are what makes a good story. So without the characters, what are you replacing them with? Well, they took out all these characters we loved and they put in other ones that we don't know if we'll love. You know, it's a reboot. Why does Hollywood make these reboots? The answer is because of investment purposes. When you're investing $100 million into making a film, you want some assurance that that investment's going to be returned, that you're going to make some money on it. And if you make a movie that is based on a previously established IP that's successful, then you're almost guaranteed to make that money back at the box office because you have a built-in fan base. You do not have to advertise as hard to build up an interest in fan base to go see it at the cinema, like if it's original IP. You just say, hey, new Ghostbusters movie are coming out. People are like, great, new Ghostbusters. I'm going to go see it because I love Ghostbusters. I'm going to go see this new Star Wars movie because I love Star Wars. I'm going to go see this new movie because it's this. Same thing with remakes. Like, we're remaking, Total Recall. It's like, great, I love the first Total Recall. I guess I'll see this one too. Right? It's all like a hedging of a bet, because whenever you are investing money in a movie, you're hoping it's going to make the money back. When you are looking at this sort of market level, where you have a built-in fan base, makes it a lot more attractive to make the movie versus trying to promote a brand new intellectual property. That's why they do it. Does it turn out well? The answer is most of the time for me, no. I don't really like remakes, and I don't particularly care for reboots, especially in the year 2016. Why? Well, because we can just go watch the original movie. We do not have to have all of these constant remakes and reboots for us to enjoy good movies. The good movies still exist. They're not worse because they're older, right? They're just older. They were just made in the past. The great thing about movies is, unlike stage productions, right? Stage productions can have revivals, right? You can have a revival. Unlike a stage production, everything is immortalized in time. The sets, the characters, the actors, the way everything's done, it's all immortalized in time as its perfect little piece, and you don't have to ever change it, right? You may want to do, you have to change actors if you want Les Miserables to keep going. You have to maybe do a revival of The Iceman Cometh, and you might want to do it differently because it's a live drama and people go to see something different when they see something live. It's just a different thing when it comes to a live performance. But with a movie, you're now remaking something that already exists in its like perfect form, that it's completely immortal. You can see exactly how it looked in the past, and the comparisons are inevitable, and they usually don't end up stacking up, right? So I don't really think they're a good idea. My general recommendation is, if you see a remake or a reboot, unless there's just some like compelling reason you have to go see it in theaters, just see it in video. Just do the $1 Redbox thing. You're not really missing out on anything. You're waiting a couple months. We all have big TVs now, most of us. Just sit closer to the TV if you want it to look bigger, and spend $1 on it. After I saw the first Hobbit movie, I actually didn't see the next two in theaters as much as I liked the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, because I just knew sort of the quality. I gauged the quality off that first movie, and I was glad that I didn't see the others in the cinema. I saw them on video. They were worth $1 to me, and probably not that much more than that, because I didn't find them to be good movies. That's me. So yeah, I do recommend that you avoid this sort of thing in the cinema. Don't reward. Remember, whatever you do, whatever you buy, the market's going to produce in excess of. They're gonna produce whatever you buy. If you go down to the store and you buy cigarettes, the cigarette manufacturer gets that signal. We're selling cigarettes. We need to make more cigarettes. If you go down to the cinema and you buy reboots, the movies get the signal. People like reboots. People like remakes. We got to make more reboots. We got to make more rebates. You have to be a conscientious consumer. We all do, right? It's kind of a collective action, but the collective is only the sum of the individual actions. So as an individual, you know that you're probably not going to enjoy a reboot. You're probably not going to enjoy a remake as much as you enjoyed the original. So just don't see it in theaters. You can maybe watch it on video if you want to, or just watch the original. And here's another argument that people have for these like remakes and these reboots and these like requels and all these craziness. Especially this was an argument with Force Awakens. We have to introduce Star Wars to a new generation. It's like, why do we have to do that at the cinema? Like, why do we have to spend $200 million to make a bad movie to have them go see the cinema to hopefully get excited about this IP? We have the movies on video. We're not living in 1965 anymore, right? Go down to Best Buy, buy the Blu-rays, and let your kids watch Star Wars. They can watch it over and over again. They can watch the original 1977 Star Wars. It looks good. It sounds good. It's a cool movie. They'll like it, right? We don't have to remake something in the cinema for like the next generation to get excited about the IP. And why should they be excited about the IP? IPs can come and go. They don't have to live forever, right? We don't have to love the same thing as our parents love, right? If something wanes, it's because the culture has changed and it no longer interests the culture, and that's okay. Like, it's okay for things to change, right? Not every, we're not super interested in hard bop in this society anymore, but hard bop was a big thing at one time, right? We're not super interested in swing music. We're not interested, there's a rockabilly scene, but it's not what it was in the 1950s, and it's okay. Some people will continue to be interested in it. It doesn't have to be a big pop culture thing for every little IP that we're dealing with. While I'm thinking about remakes, let me talk about another one that is being remade. Just very quickly. What? Ben-Hur? Yes. I heard they're coming out with a new Ben-Hur remake in 2016. Why? Ben-Hur, when it was made, was like the most expensive movie ever made. It's like generally considered an epic of like the golden age of cinema. It still looks pretty good, and it has some great cinematography, not just for the time, but I think it still holds up. Why are we remaking Ben-Hur? Why are we remaking this like massive like Academy Award winning movie from 1959? Well, because we haven't had a remake of it in the last 20 years, so let's remake it. Now, here's what I will say about Ben-Hur. The 1959 Ben-Hur was actually a remake of an older Ben-Hur. And the original Ben-Hur, I think, was from 1925. And it was based on, it was a 1925 silent film. So I'm going to slightly justify the remake of Ben-Hur here. And maybe we could create a litmus test out of this. The 1925 Ben-Hur, it was a silent black and white movie. The 1959 one was in color, bright and beautiful, and was not silent. It was a talkie. That's fundamentally a different art form than the silent movie. The silent movie was visuals only, no sound. The talkie was, this new one was color with talking. That's like a next evolution of the art form. That's like saying we're not just gonna, I'm not just gonna paint a picture. I'm gonna animate a cartoon. Like that's a pretty big difference. So the fact that this one is a remake, well, what has changed since 1959 in the movies? Well, there's CG. So maybe we have some better special effects, but I don't think you need special effects in Ben-Hur, right? I don't think you need like CG in Ben-Hur. So there's nothing that changed from 1959 that's going to make the new movie so exceptionally better than the 1959 movie. So why are we remaking it? So maybe the litmus test is, has the medium changed enough that the remake will be significantly better in quality than the original? If the answer is no, then you don't remake it. Okay? If the answer is no, you don't remake it. If the answer is yes, you can think about remaking it. Somebody did a really solid remake of Metropolis. That might be interesting. I don't think it'll happen, but, we're at a completely different level here, right, in terms of technical possibilities. So that might actually might be interesting. But for the most part, I think remakes just, they're a marketing thing. They never end up turning out, they're either too different from their original and people don't like them, or they're too much like the original and people don't like them. I don't think you can really win too well with remakes. And sometime, I think in a follow-up video, I'll talk about remakes that might have actually been good, maybe including Ben-Hur. But, for the most part, we're usually pretty disappointed by them. So that means to me, get them on video, skip them in the cinema. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see and what you want to hear. I do deliver, including videos like this. So I hopefully will be continuing to deliver what you want. I really appreciate you watching, and I really appreciate your patronage and your viewership. Don't forget to visit my websites if you want to. You can read my books if you want to. And I do appreciate it. You have a great day or night whenever you're watching it. Let it be great.